It's no revelation to exclaim that stories are important. From the dawn of human creative thought, stories have served as beacons, illuminating the path of wisdom and personal growth. Whether books, film, video games, or anime, the medium matters little. The essence of a story is invariable. The reason for this is that, although fiction, stories convey elements of truth, not in a pragmatic sense, but rather a metaphysical one. They are designed to foster growth, guiding us toward greater wisdom and maturity by embarking us on a journey of introspection. As the characters in a story go through their conflict and transformation, so too do we wrestle with our own shadow and experience a subtle transformation within. This is why one can say it changed my life or that was life-changing, despite it providing no real tangible facilitation. This is because of a story's resonating factor. All of this brings me to A Silent Voice. Before I go further, I must preface this by explaining my channel. I take what I believe to be the greatest stories across various mediums and dissect them to understand their meanings and purpose in order to provide significance to our lives. I believe the proper stories can become the gateway to living a virtuous and harmonious life. In this video, I aim to explore the resonating importance of storytelling. I'm using A Silent Voice as my example because I believe no other story provides a more resonating and emotional experience than this one. To explain how a story can resonate with us, we first need to understand what resonating is. It actually has many different definitions, but the one we're focused on is providing a positive feeling, emotional response, or opinion. Now, in regards to storytelling, this means evoking emotions deep within us that are similar to the characters. When a character goes through something significant, be it positive or negative, the feeling attributed to the character must manifest onto the viewer. When this is successfully done, the result is a shared emotional experience. A perfect example of this is with the movie Past Lives. Try not to dehydrate yourself if you watch this one. Of course, all of this is contingent on the writer's ability and skill. If the writer does not know how to properly achieve this, or fails in any way, the result is a disconnect between the audience and the story. The immersion is thus broken. So how does A Silent Voice achieve this? It does it in 3 ways. Every event has a purpose, the characters are realistically designed, and it has a meaningful message. All of these elements help to make the story resonate greatly with anyone who experiences it. I will break down each of these elements, what they mean, and how A Silent Voice successfully executes them. The first one is that every event within a story has a purpose. This is embodied by Chekhov's gun, which states, if in the first act you have hung a pistol on the wall, then in the following one it should be fired. Otherwise, don't put it there. In other words, every element in a story must be relevant and essential to its overall intent or goal. Including unnecessary elements only dilutes the narrative, weakening its impact and breaking the immersion. Every component must contribute to the goal of the story. Remove any that don't. This ensures that the story is delivering to the viewer precisely what is needed, thus enhancing its overall impact. Every detail should reinforce the experience you're aiming to create. In A Silent Voice, this principle is executed perfectly. Specifically referencing the movie, I can't think of another story that adheres to this rule more thoroughly. There is not one moment that you can point to and say it wasn't unnecessary to include. Nothing feels superfluous or out of place. This is crucial because it keeps the story's message and meaning consistently in focus, always at the forefront. Every event, every character decision, and every scene witnessed is purposeful. Nothing is lacking, nothing feels out of place. It is clear why everything is the way it is. The characters become more relatable and understandable because their actions align seamlessly with the narrative. A Silent Voice resonates so well because everything within it is treated with the utmost importance. Everything in it is necessary. If this still seems unclear, let me point to a specific example in the movie that illustrates my point. There's a scene where Shoko is at the playground and Shoya throws rocks at her. She turns toward him and signs, "Can we be friends?" Shoya, unfamiliar with sign language, misinterprets her gestures as something strange and uses it as an excuse to further insult her, throwing dirt at her before running off. The next day, a teacher is presenting to the class some basic sign language to help them communicate with Shoko. As Shoya awkwardly attempts to mimic the signs, the scene briefly cuts to a flashback of Shoko's earlier gesture. In that moment, Shoya realizes she was trying to communicate, not just acting weird. This epiphany is a moment of realization for Shoya, though it doesn't immediately stop his bullying. Another scene that exemplifies this is when Shoko wades through the filthy pond to retrieve her notebook that Shoya threw in. In that moment, we see a flicker of regret in Shoya's eyes, an acknowledgement of his cruelty. But being just a child, he cannot fully grasp the weight of his actions. The director purposely emphasizes this hesitation. It's only later when Shoya himself is shoved into the same pond by his former friends that he begins to truly understand the gravity of his wrongdoing. The director could have easily left out these brief scenes, which are over in a matter of seconds, but it's crucial to understanding Shoya's character. It reveals that deep down, Shoya is capable of understanding and has empathy, traits that are essential to his eventual redemption. This is a perfect example of Chekhov's gun in action. Every detail shown to the audience must serve a purpose, otherwise, it's just wasting time. These particular scenes not only set up future events, but also add layers to the character's development. And these aren't isolated cases. Every scene in A Silent Voice is like this. It's truly remarkable. The next crucial element is the realism of the characters. How can this be achieved in an animated film like A Silent Voice, where the characters resemble anything but real people? Something that Disney figured out in their animated works is that in order to sell personality, you needed to exaggerate the features of the character. Think of the large eyes and massive expressions. The physical appearance didn't need to mirror reality because the personalities felt authentic, making the characters resonate as real individuals with the audience. The audience saw them as real people because they exemplified real people. By prioritizing visual storytelling over mere visual accuracy, you can craft a realistic world even in an unrealistic setting. I'm far less concerned with how a man eats his breakfast than with how he copes with the grief of losing his mother. By focusing on the deeper aspects that truly define us as human beings, we can create characters that feel genuinely real, even if their design is stylized. Grave of the Fireflies, a film I'm also covering in another video, exemplifies how deeply lifelike fictional characters can be. In my view, it's the most realistic story ever told, and the fact that it's animated only enhances its authenticity. The animators' emphasis on visual storytelling and the meticulous crafting of the characters' personalities allows for the film to resonate profoundly with its audience. This focus on the emotional truths of human experience rather than the superficial details is what makes characters in films like A Silent Voice and Grave of the Fireflies feel so remarkably real. There are countless examples throughout A Silent Voice that demonstrate the film's meticulous attention to character realism. While it's difficult to overlook the beautiful detail in each character's design that brings them to life, I'd like to highlight one particular example that stands out to me: Shoya. His portrayal is a striking demonstration of how a character's realism can be crafted through thoughtful writing and visual storytelling. At the beginning of the film, we see Shoya as a young boy full of confidence. He stands upright, shoulders back, posture straight, chin up, and even has a swagger to his walk. This isn't a display of arrogance or narcissism, it's a reflection of his self-assuredness. Shoya is well liked by his classmates, surrounded by friends and enjoying life, which is evident in the way he carries himself. The careful and deliberate design of Shoya's character is showcased in this nearly 3-minute long scene that introduces us to his world. The film wants us to fully grasp this aspect of Shoya's personality, to understand how deeply he cherishes his life and himself. His walk becomes the perfect visual representation of his inner state, emphasizing just how much he values his place in the world at this stage in his life. After the bullying of Shoko in years into the future, we encounter a high school version of Shoya who is a shadow of his former self. The confident stride is gone, replaced by a slouched posture, lowered head, and a fear of looking at others. He's silent and doesn't approach people, concocting scenarios in his head of what they're saying about him. Shoya has lost his friends and his classmates have no interest in him, seeing him as someone strange. He hates his life and himself. This is when Shoya embarks on a difficult journey to right his past wrongs. His goal is not to seek redemption or forgiveness, but to prevent further harm to those he still cares about. He wants to alleviate the pain he has caused, and to do so he sets out to apologize to everyone he has hurt. When he reunites with Shoko, their relationship blossoms into an awkward yet meaningful friendship. Although Shoya initially believes he is helping her, it is ultimately Shoko who helps him. As he strives to restore others to their true selves and repair what he has broken, he experiences a parallel transformation. Slowly, Shoya begins to heal, gradually reclaiming the love for life he once had. By forming a bond with Shoko and making every effort to correct his past mistakes and become a better person, Shoya begins to overcome his self-hatred. In the film's climax, the metaphorical X's that have obscured everyone's faces, signifying his fear of confronting others, fall away, revealing their true faces. Shoya looks around, and as he does, he begins to stand up straight again, a clear indication that his confidence has returned. This aspect of his character design is crucial. Without it, the emotional impact of his transformation would be significantly diminished. The detail of his slouched posture is key to making his character feel real and resonate so deeply with the audience. The final element lies in the story's meaning. For a narrative to resonate deeply with an audience, its message must be purposeful. Many anime excel at delivering powerful moral messages, which is why I plan to explore this topic further in a dedicated video. In A Silent Voice, the central theme is the struggle to overcoming the self. Whether it be depression, anxiety, low confidence, or self-loathing, each character undergoes a transformation, reflecting on their actions and ultimately emerging as better individuals. For Shoya and Shoko, this journey is about overcoming their self-hatred. This pivotal moment occurs at the midpoint of the story when Shoko attempts suicide by jumping off her balcony. She believes she's a burden to everyone around her, convinced that her disability makes life harder for others. She's spent her entire life seeing people adjust their behavior, actions, and time to accommodate her, which has significantly shaped the way she views herself. Overwhelmed by self-hatred, she sees no other way out. Shoya, though struggling for different reasons, shares this deep sense of self-loathing. Once the most popular kid in school, the pressure to maintain his status led to him bullying, a choice that ultimately cost him dearly. As he reflects on the pain he inflicted on others, he is consumed by regret and shame. Like Shoko, Shoya attempted suicide also, believing that the world and everyone in it would be better off without him. How could such a horrible and pathetic man deserve anything better? This overwhelming guilt and self-hatred are what set him on the path to self-improvement and atonement. Both characters grapple with overcoming their deep-seated self-hatred. It's during the hospital scene, when they chase each other down and exchange apologies, that they begin to heal. In that moment, it's through each other that they realize their self-worth. This marks the point where they both start to overcome the internal anguish that has plagued them for so long. Their process of learning to care for themselves and finding value in their lives is a message that resonates profoundly with virtually anybody. It's a very relatable message on top of being a powerful one. A story's ability to connect with its audience hinges on the strength of its message. Above all, a powerful and purposeful message is the cornerstone of a narrative that truly resonates with its audience. I cannot stress enough how important this element of storytelling is. You can think of a story as an exchange. You are gifting something to the viewer. You want your audience to walk away from the story with newfound insights, something meaningful that lingers with them. A story must offer something of value, a gift of wisdom or understanding that invites reflection and introspection. If your audience continues to think about the story long after they finished it, then you've succeeded in creating a narrative that truly resonates. A Silent Voice is a story that remains insanely popular, almost a decade after its release. It's clear it succeeded at this. There is so much more I could talk about. I barely scratched the surface to this topic and what makes A Silent Voice such a powerful story. There is an endless plethora of things to say about its characters, writing, and meaning. But to recap, the three elements that make A Silent Voice resonate so deeply with its people are its purposeful events, realistically designed characters, and a meaningful message. Of course, these aspects are far easier to acknowledge than to execute. It takes years of mastery to craft a story with such great emotional impact. Yet, the stories that manage to successfully achieve this are the ones that stay with us, shaping our lives long after we've experienced them. Stories matter because they guide us toward wisdom and personal growth. They teach, inspire, and ultimately help us become better people, leading more purposeful lives. And A Silent Voice is a story that has genuinely changed lives for the better. I will be making another video on A Silent Voice in the near future, further evaluating its writing and meaning, and diving heavy into Shoya's character, as there is so much to say about him. If that sounds enticing, consider subscribing and sticking around to watch my other videos. Regardless, thanks for watching this one.